This is Arthur Godfrey. The film you're going to see contains some very unusual pictures which have been released from the earliest files of the U.S. Air Force. It's about America's #1 ace of all time, a man whose heroic exploits have made him revered and honored by Americans of all ages. He flew the kind of a plane that you see flying here. You know what it is? Sure, a Spad from the First World War. There aren't many of them left. And the man in this famous plane is the big boy himself, the one and only Captain Eddie Rickenbacker.
Hey, wait a minute. I want to get in this scene myself.
I'm glad to see you.
Oh, boy. How's it feel to be at the controls of this old baby again?
Well, it brings back a lot of memories, Arthur. A lot of them good, some not so good, but I guess we had to do it at the time. You know, many a morning I'd sail around at 20,000 feet, this old boy waiting for an enemy fucker to come along.
20,000 feet in that open cockpit? Gee, and nowadays we got pressurized and heated cabins. Didn't you get cold?
Oh, it sure was. We even had to come down to thaw out.
Well, they certainly weren't perfect, but for those days, the ships they flew were pretty wonderful. The whole business of flying was only 15 years old. And it's almost miraculous that they had planes as good as these in 1918. There was a lot of trial and error. But the trouble was, just one bad error and the pilot was all through. Captain Eddie and the great squadron he commanded spent a lot of time on strategy and tactics. And they had to work on the planes they had too, getting them to outperform the enemy machines. That's where Captain Eddie was outstanding, because he had been around engines all his life. As a matter of fact, he was a mighty successful international racing driver when the war started. Here he is, way back in 1918, at the same cocky, smiling, hard-fighting Eddie Rickenbacker that you know today. By golly, that plane is exactly the same as the one you just saw, a Spad with the famous #1 on the side. You could do a lot with them, as Captain Eddie proved so heroically. There's a cute story of how he got that Spad. The squadron had been using Newports, which were great little planes, but which had the nasty habit of having the canvas come off the wings. Sometimes when you went into a power dive and you looked around, it was, "Hey, look, Ma, no wings." Well, Eddie wanted a Spad, so he went down to headquarters at a place called Orly to see about one. He found that they were going to be issued to the squadron soon, and because one Spad was ready on the field, he took off with it right away, strictly against orders. Nobody ever said anything. Rick was a hot pilot, sometimes too hot. Anything he wanted to do was okay. Now, this is an actual combat film you're looking at. A dogfight on the morning of April 30th, 1918. Eddie's record of 26 enemy planes in 6 months has never been equal. At the same time, he was the leader of the famous 94th Hat-in-the-Ring Squadron that shot down more planes than any other group. One of the German planes has been hit, and hit hard. This was one of Eddie's first authenticated victories, an Albatross biplane that fell within the French line. It was shot down from a height of about 15,000 feet. It was victories like this that began the Rickenbacker legend of daring but skillful flying that even the enemy had to admire. One of the big activities on both sides was shooting down observation balloons. This is one of ours, shot down by a daring German. Captain Eddie got on the scene a little too late to save the balloon, but he was in time to shoot down the enemy plane. In those days, pilots of planes didn't have parachutes. When you got hit, you went down with the plane. There goes Eddie's 7th victory, just over the horizon. Going, gone. This pilot was very lucky. He came out alive. But that plane of his doesn't look so good. Here are Captain Eddie and Jimmy Meissner, one of the famous flyers of the 94th. Some of the others were Major John Huffer, Major Rowell Lufbery, Douglas Campbell, and Alan Winslow. The 94th Aero Squadron was a terrific gang with the finest record of any group in the war. This picture of pilots, crew, mechanics, and mascot in front of a captured plane was taken in April 1918. Here are Meissner, Eastman, Rickenbacker, Chambers, and Thorne Taylor by the tail of the plane. On the left is a British pilot, next Major Lufbery, and then a group of 94th Squadron pilots. These are boys who really made history, the first of hundreds of thousands of American airmen. These young pilots started it all and first established our flyers' glorious reputation for flying skill, for guts, and for coolness in combat. Here's Eddie in a dogfight on September 25th, 1918, when he shot down 2 planes out of a group of 7. He jumped the formation single-handed, his 9th and 10th victories, all in a matter of minutes. This plane came down hard. Eddie and his squadron were decorated often. Here's General Patrick, assisted by Billy Mitchell, with his back to the camera, pinning the Distinguished Service Cross on Captain William Thaw. Captain Eddie Rickenbacker was awarded the Distinguished Service Cross with 9 oak leaves. That means that he received the DSC 10 times in all. Captain Eddie was awarded the DSC more times than any other American in our country's history. The French showed their appreciation, too. He got the Legion of Honor, the Croix de Guerre, with 4 palm leaves. Here are 3 94th Squadron pilots being decorated and congratulated. More honors for our daring young captain. After the decorations, it was back to the dangerous, dirty, but necessary business that had to be done. This old-time shot has a title. Here are some pictures of a dogfight over Chateau Thierry on October 3rd. Boy, I don't know. You had to have plenty of stuff to fly around in those flimsy little planes. It was a tough business, going up day after day, only the good ones lasting very long. On the German side, Baron von Richthofen's flying circus of highly skilled veteran flyers was ready to pounce on anybody who got careless. One of their pilots he missed getting a shot at, though, and it was kind of too bad. His name was Hermann Goering. This is a late model Hanover 2-place fighter brought down by Rickenbacker and Reed Chambers on October 2nd. The gunner was killed and the pilot taken prisoner. You can see the bullet holes in the fuselage where Chambers points, where the shots entered that killed the gunner. Eddie and his boys captured many German planes, some of which you see here. They look pretty badly shot up. Our young hero got just about every decoration that existed in those days. The Congressional Medal of Honor. It was presented to him by President Hoover at ceremonies at Bowling Field in Washington. That was Truby Davidson opening the ceremonies. General Fichet is at the mic. I think he was head of the Air Department, or whatever they called it in those days. President Hoover then read the citation. Too bad we haven't got a picture of the actual presentation of the Medal of Honor. Here's our famous captain saying a few words of acceptance. That's President Hoover, of course, on the right. And here's a wonderful picture of Eddie with the star-studded blue and white Medal of Honor ribbon around his neck. A great honor for a great fighter, one of our greatest Americans. The members of the old 94th Aero Squadron got together for the ceremony. The fightingest, bravest, best gang that ever flew together. They were the pioneers. They blazed the trail of glory followed by the generations of flyers such as this younger group here. Heroes, every one, immortal in our great nation's history. These planes in the air show that day were a long step forward from the planes of the war that Eddie fought in, but in all the long history of military flying, I doubt that there will ever be a single plane as well known as a certain Spad with the number 1 and a hat in the ring on the side. That Spad and the man who flew it will be famous forever.
You know, it's a great little ship. And I never regret the training I had on her, because it stood me in great stead all through the years. It's taught me many things, and I've used it well. Tommy, I'm awfully glad to see you again.
Glad to see you again, sir. How are you, Captain Eddie?
I'm fine, but gosh, it must be wonderful to fly one of these beautiful ships with all that speed.
It
How do you
certainly
like
is.
it?
I like it fine. This is really a wonderful Air Force. The training these boys get now is it's marvelous. It can't be duplicated. We have the best equipment here in the world and the best training. They talk a lot about the supersonic flights being somewhat of being dangerous. Well, the planes are built to take it. The boys are trained to do it, and it's just a normal routine flight. The training they get it's benefited me. I know.
And it's safe, I suppose. You're still here.
Yes, sir.
Look at me.
After 12 years, you've got
Well,
a lot
you know,
more than that.
I've got a son, and just came back from Korea. He had that beautiful training,
Yes, sir.
wonderful training in the air forces, and it's going to do him a world of good. And in fact, if I was a young man today, I would take advantage of that training first above everything else, because it'll apply to any profession or any walk of life in their years to come.
No man has ever served his country more gallantly. In the First World War, Captain Eddie became an international hero. In the Second War, his devotion to duty and rugged courage were an inspiration to the nation. You remember those 24 days on a raft in the Pacific. In aviation, Captain Eddie's vision and leadership have helped to establish a tremendous industry. Today, he personifies both the strength of America and the opportunity our country gives to a man of courage. Our immortal ace, Captain Eddie Rickenbacker.